Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from a Frontier. It's been a pretty eventful week here in Kenya. Roads a little bit busier than they were yesterday and the day before. And I met one employer who's told all his staff, if you're not counting votes for the IEBC, I expect to see you in. Thankfully, my folks were in, and we'll see how it goes. But it's essentially a fait accompli, and there will be a declaration, I suspect, today. I'll get into my thoughts more deeply further down. But if you get a chance, I had an interview with Bonnie Tunya of CNBC day before yesterday, where I put a lot of thoughts forward, particularly around the economy. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups, and it's probably the first link. Macro thoughts: the Japanese yen traded below 109. We're now at 109.16 as North Korea risk-off phase continues. Take a look at this chart from JS Blockland, and we now look as if we're going to revisit 108. President Trump was again on the tape being very aggressive, and we've seen a flight into safety. And the yen is considered a safe haven as well. VIX Index up more than 40%. Take a look at this from Blockland as well. And I tweeted back to him, is this the end of the Halcyon moment? Halcyon moment, of course, was from the Latin Alcyone, who was the daughter of Aeolus and the wife of Ceyx. When her husband died in a shipwreck, Alcyone threw herself into the sea, whereupon the gods transformed them both into halcyon birds, kingfishers. When Alcyone made her nest on the beach, waves threatened to destroy it. Aeolus restrained his winds and kept them calm during 7 days in each year, so she could lay her eggs. These became known as the halcyon days, when storms do not occur. Today the term is used to denote a past period that is being remembered for being happy or successful. VIX through trendline resistance 14.41. This is from Gian Claudio, big move. And this goes back to what I was writing about in September last year, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And I said a lot of risk calculations are based on value at risk. Essentially, you overlay a volatility measure over the portfolio and you calculate how much money is on the line. Central banks have suppressed volatility. Therefore, in real terms, investors are now holding bigger positions at these currently artificially suppressed levels. If volatility spikes, positions are going to be reduced en masse, or to put it another way, and to borrow the lyrics from the Eagles song, Hotel California, mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the night man. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Look at this from Holger. This is VIX net short positions have hit a record of 158,114. And that's the point I'm making. Swiss National Bank is buying US stocks like crazy. What's behind the S&P shopping spree on Wall Street is an article developed via Holger. But have a look at the portfolio that he's posted. Home Thoughts couldn't resist this story. The mysterious creature linking humans and apes is unearthed in Kenya. The tiny lacy skull is 13 million years old. Craig S. Feibel of Rutgers University, New Brunswick says a nearby volcano buried the forest where the baby ape lived, preserving the fossil and countless trees. It provided us with the critical volcanic materials by which we were able to date the fossil. And that took me back to what I learned at the end of last month, that in some sense we are extragalactic visitors or immigrants in what we think of as our galaxy, let alone our Earth. I learned last week that nearly half of the atoms that make up our bodies may have formed beyond the Milky Way and traveled to the solar system on intergalactic winds, driven by giant exploding stars. Science is very useful for finding our place in the universe, said Daniel Angles Alcazar, an astronomer at Northwestern University. In some sense, we are extragalactic visitors or immigrants in what we think of as our galaxy. And then, of course, that took me to Rumi, who comes spinning out of nothingness, scattering stars like dust. A sculpture is not an object, it is an inquiry, a question and an answer, Giacometti. Those who don't believe in magic will never find it, Roald Dahl. And then I found this interesting from the New Scientist: possessed, the powerful aliens that lurk within you. You've got aliens inside you. It sounds crazy, and for nearly a century science steadfastly refused to believe it. Mitochondria, tiny bodies that swarm inside almost every one of our cells and supply them with power, are actually descendants of a separate life form, a free living bacterium, probably not unlike many of the little terrors that surround us today. Although this idea of this merger is now widely accepted, it continues to be seen through biased eyes. The hapless mitochondrial ancestor was enslaved, so the story goes, its once proud genome reduced to a few genes and its job limited to the provision of energy. Autonomy long gone. It's as if we were trying to pretend this side of our family tree never existed. But these residents are becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Far from being passive power plants, it seems mitochondria influence some of the most important aspects of human life. From memory and aging to combating stress and disease, they even have influence over the DNA in your cell nuclei, and change and evolve during your lifetime, giving you an unexpected source of adaptability to cope with the world in flux. Given what we're now finding out about the extent of mitochondrial activities, you might be forgiven for feeling a bit possessed. There you go. JP Morgan, a geopolitical anxiety index to track complacency and fear. USAF B-1B Lancer bombers on Guam stand ready to fulfill US FK's flight tonight mission if called upon to do so. Gold, take a look at this, 1285.75 when I checked last. And on the 18th of April, I wrote about how gold has the potential to go nuclear. The purest geopolitical proxy in the markets is gold. As Ben Bernanke once said, people hold gold as protection against what we call tail risks, really, really bad outcomes. And I was writing then, when was that? Let's have a look. It was in April 2017, and gold closed the week then at a 6-week high of 1285. And I said it has the potential to go nuclear. We're back at that level as it is right now. North Korea vows mercilessly to wipe out the provocateurs, says US will suffer a shameful defeat. Trump says, let's see what he does with Guam. If he attacks Guam, it will be an event the likes of which nobody's ever seen before in North Korea, he said. The US took control of Guam in 1898 when Spanish authorities surrendered to the US Navy. Korean stocks have taken fright, on track for the worst day since the US elections. Kospi 200 volatility index spikes to the highest in 14 months. You will remember my piece from November 2010 about the Hermit Kingdom, and in that article I asked, did you know that the South Korean president has a military war room and an economic war room? And they say he spends more time in the economic war room. And that time, it was very interesting, in 2010, I follow all kinds of tapes, and the South Korean market was very interesting. About 5 working days before the whole thing blew at that time, somebody sold more than $1 billion worth of South Korean equities seconds before the close. Not one commentator connected those dots. That piece, I think, is still relevant. If I can just touch on a few bits from the Hermit Kingdom. Far away in distant lands lies the Hermit Kingdom. This land is ruled by the House of Kim, and its capital is Pyongyang. The first and eternal president was Kim Il-sung, and his successor, Kim Jong-il, whose designated successor, I was writing this in 2010, is Kim Jong-un. They have all had tiny little hands, like the elves and the shoemaker. This country has nuclear weapons. This is the point. And this is what he learned. He learned the lesson that if he didn't have a nuclear weapon, he'd be rolled over like Saddam and Muammar. And this is why it makes it a much more dangerous confrontation. We're not talking about a false claim. It's very real. The DPRK will deal a merciless military counterattack at any provocative act of intruding into its territorial waters in the future. Again, I'm taking you back to then. And I was talking then saying that it wasn't really in China's interest to rein him in, because he is the buffer between 35,000 US soldiers, South Korea, etc., etc. And I think those points remain relevant. Trump says he hasn't thought about firing Robert Mueller. That will really be a step too far. Donald Trump thanks Russian President Putin for slashing US diplomatic staff. Take a look at that. It's hilarious. Reuters TV. Trump attacked Congress for imposing sanctions on Russia and thanked Russia for imposing sanctions on the United States. That goes back to my article in December. We have a deviate tomahawk. And I was talking about Russian interference in the US election, then saying from feeding the hothouse conspiracy frenzy online, constant state of destabilized perception, timely and judicious doses of WikiLeaks, which drained Hillary's bona fides and her turnout and motivated Trump's. What we have witnessed is something remarkable and noteworthy. And I also said that Putin has proved himself an information master, and his adversaries are his information victims. When you listen to Trump, you can understand why I said that. When Qatar's Al Jazeera satellite channel has both the Saudis and the Israelis demanding its closure, it must be doing something right, says Robert Fisk. To bring Saudi head choppers and Israeli occupiers into an alliance is, after all, something of an achievement. Take you back to August 2011 when I wrote a piece, Soft Power, Qatar, Al Jazeera. And I said, what I want to look at is Al Jazeera and how it is a preeminent example of soft power in this 21st century of ours. Soft power is the ability to obtain what one wants through co-option and attraction. It can be contrasted with hard power, that is the use of coercion and payment. Soft power can be wielded not just by states, but by all actors in the 7th century BC. Soft power can be by all actors in international politics, such as NGOs or international institutions. The idea of attraction as a form of power dates back to ancient Chinese philosophers, such as Lao Tzu, who said this, probably one of my favorite, I don't know what you call it. Water is fluid, soft and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. This is another paradox. What is soft is strong. I was saying that about 250,000 Qataris in the world of about 7 billion, considerably less than 0.1%. And then I was saying Al Jazeera has beamed into 200 million households. If you want a definition of soft power, that's it. How did we get to a place where a picture of the Statue of Liberty is an attack on Trump? Asked the Daily Beast. Let's move on to the currency markets. What's going on? Euro dollar 117.52, dollar index back below that 93.50 level at 93.46, dollar yen 109.12, having been below 109, probably targeting 108, Swiss franc 0.9628, the pound 129.81. The Australian dollar, what's that doing? 0.7864. Indian rupee, 64.205. South Korean won, softer, 11.4340. The rial, 317.52. Egyptian pound, 17.77. And the Rand, 13.4469. Remember, the Rand, I think, is double-edged right now because I think President Zuma is mortally wounded. Of course, he might try all kinds of things before his departure, but he is in the departure lounge, and that's the main issue here. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart, 93.50 remains a key pivot level. Euro dollar, take a look at this chart from TC Commodity, 117.55. Look, we're in a very wide range. I think the bottom of the range is 114.50. I think the top of the range is that high 119.41, I think it was. But I'm of the view that we've got to see some unwinding of euro longs here. Commodity markets, US crude oil futures settled at $49.59, not before going quite close to 50.50. That was down 1.96%. I think it's rolling over now finally after a period of being quite bullish. The world's 2 largest cocoa producers want you to buy their chocolate, not just their beans. When Mami Camara attended the opening of Ivorian chocolatier Instant Chocolat, she instantly fell in love. Born and raised in Abidjan, Camara grew up exposed to European chocolate brands like Côte d'Or and Milka. But through the Ivorian-made treats, she satisfied both her sweet tooth and her patriotism. Good story. Africa consumes fewer than 4% of chocolate globally, but the region's consumption patterns may soon change due to the rising middle class. Let's move on to Africa. Museveni, this is from an article by Gerard Prunier, whom I met actually, has written this great big tome on the DRC. Apparently, according to this report, he's talking about President Museveni having a very bold idea with regard to South Sudan: organize elections, gently accompany Salva Kiir to the exit door, and promote Mrs. Garang as a unity candidate for the presidency. I like this from Innocent Akan. Who did this to Bobby? Who made him cut his hair? Now he's out here looking like Eustace from Courage the Cowardly Dog. Zambian police have freed an opposition leader accused of defaming the president. But this is not the main opposition leader, Hichilema. This is the United Progressive Party leader, Xavier Chishimba, who was charged with defaming the president. Zambia's central bank cut its lending rate by 150 basis points, this to 11% on Thursday. This was very predictable. They had a good harvest, food prices under control, bit of a recovery in copper prices, and both Zambia and Ghana I was bullish about from the beginning of the year. Moody's may spare South African slide to junk as Zuma clings on. Moody's will issue their ratings at 12 o'clock or so tonight after the markets have closed. I think they'll skip that reduction and see how things move from here. While the no confidence motion in Zuma was defeated by 198 to 177 on August 8th, more than 24 members of the ruling African National Congress opposed him. That's the point, yeah. South African all share up 9.96% year to date, just off record highs. Dollar versus Rand, last time I looked, 13.4469. I would actually buy some options, call options on the Rand once we steady up a little bit. Nigerian all share up 41.78% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange up 34.84% year to date. Angolan president approves the issuance of sovereign debt in the international markets, talking about a $2 billion issue. Kenya, well, on August the 9th, I tweeted, this time it's a fait accompli, and I'll stand by that tweet. I said yesterday, after watching the press conference that they had, that the opposition had in Caramel, which by the way is the most expensive bar in Nairobi, and I should have visited there, bought at the prices. But I was sort of offside quite a bit by the time I realized what the prices were. It's a very strange place to be holding a press conference, but probably the main shareholder. Outthought and at every turn, outspent. ROI divergence is in fact massive. And I think they just drank too much of their Kool-Aid, and it's time for a change. And I think everyone saw that yesterday in that press conference. Mr. Chege in The Economist says it's not beyond him to test the situation to the limit. No, but it's not going to end anywhere good. We demand that the Commission chairperson announce the presidential election results forthwith and declare Raila Amolo Odinga as the duly elected president, said Mr. Mudavadi. Gabrielle Lynch, a Kenya expert at Warwick University, raised questions about the opposition's claims. They just didn't stack up. There's no smoking gun. It's a massive red herring. And even if there was a smoking gun, you had one go at getting it right? Get someone who knows what they're talking about, other than your nephew, who has no clue. The question is, if results are so different as is being claimed, why are those discrepancies not being raised at the constituency level? International observer missions, including one led by former Secretary of State John Kerry, called the poll largely free and fair on Thursday and urged Mr. Odinga to follow due process to address his grievances. We listened very carefully to his concerns, and they deserve to be taken seriously. I know what it's like to lose an election. I lost by one state, the presidency of the United States, but you have to get over it and move on. And it's interesting that Kerry was there, Mahama was there, Becky was there. These are all leaders who've lost elections. Les résultats ne viennent pas des candidats, rétorque le chef de IEBC. That's the chief of the IEBC saying it's not for a candidate to announce the results. I was talking a couple of days ago about the market reaction. The markets saw this very early. They're seeing this accusation of massive hacking as a red herring. They see no smoking gun, and hence we've had this very strong thrust upwards, which I think will build momentum. The FTSE NSE 25 index of stocks advanced for a fourth straight day to the highest level since July 2015. Nairobi All Shares up 22.05% this year, rallied 1.37% yesterday. Safaricom rallied 2.105% and will set a new record high as early as today. Kengen up large yesterday. It's up 54.31% so far this year. NSE 20 up 22.51% this year, closed up 1.38% yesterday. We've got a bull market developing here at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I wish you a safe weekend and a good one. And just to say from here from Kenya, one would expect a lot of money to pile in after this result announcement. It was quite a bifurcated outcome we faced. One where you knew what you were getting, 51 years of free market economics, well, within reason. Too many bailouts in my view, but far more free market than any other country in Africa. And then you had the potential of a sort of Magufuli style economy. And I think from an economic perspective, the markets liked what they're getting.